Yeah, thank you for that, and thank you for the kind words. Glad that I am becoming a tradition. Yeah, as just mentioned, with the idea of that is my second talk. Maybe some of you heard already a little bit about me yesterday, but I want to start with the one thing because we are talking about youth. Besides being a hardcore gamer for my whole life, I have a father who was an HR professor. So my whole life is gaming and HR. And therefore, I have always this, or my brain is a little bit differently wired with the idea that I always look at people and their potential. And you all know that if we are looking at gamers and with all the stereotypes, um, what will happen with the youth? I mean, that is something we all hear, and I heard it, and everybody hears it all the time. What is happening with you? Uh, Apparently, at least for me, not that bad. And with gaming, I did my career. But it is the part where we also see how sometimes it's quite hard to deal with the young generation. I met yesterday the son of a friend. The kid is like 12 years old, and his games are Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox. All the big three things they love and adore. And it was quite interesting where he was quite shy at the beginning and he was not really talking. And then suddenly he realized, oh, there is a fellow gamer. And suddenly he became this blabberbox. And his father were like, what's happening here? He's never talking to a stranger that much. And that's the part where I always see that not only we have to understand the young generation, but we also have to understand where they're coming from. And especially nowadays, where we see a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties, a lot of risks, and that is something where they are living in an uncertain time, and now the light is shining. So at least now we are all enlightened. But it's the part where how do we deal with those things? How do we show them that there is a future? And this is something as well where we have to understand them even further. And especially nowadays with AI, this is a topic where what is the future? Where can they do their careers? What can they do? And that is something why we are also looking more and more into what we call here Esports-Based Assessment Center, where to identify and find out in what they are good. And I talked yesterday a little bit about the idea that there are so many skills you are learning in video games. Um, One of the things I often hear is when I talk with architects, most of them have played in their childhood City Skyline and SimCity. And I had a chat with the dean from a university, and he was like, yeah, 50% of our people played that game, and that's the only reason why they became architects. Cannot validate that data, but it was showcasing a lot that we are learning a lot of those things. And think about Farming Simulator. A lot of farmers playing Farming Simulator. And I'm always curious about the idea. They are driving the whole day on their tractors and then go home and play virtually on the tractor still. And yeah, that's the idea behind it. And this is something where we also see that this is a problem where both sides are struggling. So the companies are struggling and the young generation are struggling. So there is this huge mismatch. And especially the idea of traditional hiring. That is a topic where if I talk with HR people, they are still thinking that those horrible job fairs are the greatest thing to reach the young generation. When I was 20, when I was 15, that I already hated those things where like, what should I do there? And do I have to talk with this person? Why should I talk with them? And if you talk with the young generation, they are even more like to the sense where that could have been a TikTok. And that is something where we still see this problem where companies are investing a lot of money to go there and hope that magically the players or that the people are applying to them. Same with the idea of, you probably all saw at some game fairs, those stands from companies to magically get people interested in there, be it at a Gamescom, the Bundeswehr, or at the Glitched Festival, Saab, Defenses. A lot of those companies invest a lot of money, and then their KPI is people at the stand. Sure, you definitely get a lot of people at the stand at a Gamescom just because it's crowded. But does that really lead to applications? Does that lead actually to anything? And this is something where we have to reach them in a different environment. And also the idea of those static CV-based assessments. That is something where with AI, the CV and the letter is written by an AI and at the same time evaluated by an AI by the company. So two AIs are talking with each other. Amazing. That's the way to find an employee. And then you go to the assessment center. Hopefully that is at least physical. But there you also see the problem that both assessment or the assessment center is written by an AI and the person preparing for an assessment center is trained by an AI. So it is a theater. And think about if you're thinking about comparison to dating. If you're both playing a role, it's probably not lasting long because you are faking, you are playing a different identity, and you have to uphold that. And that is something as well where a lot of companies are then happy to hire someone until they are realizing, oh, crap, it doesn't fit. And then the person is leaving the company and you have to hire again. And if you're looking at some studies, that means at least 50,000 per hire you are losing. And this is something as well where you have to deal with those topics and you have to find a way to understand that person. And that is something where we are mostly focusing on the idea of soft skills. I know a lot of concepts are focusing on the hard skills you're learning in video games and esports, project management and everything. But esports is all about people. And this is the interesting part where they are playing with each other. They have to actually play with each other. And we heard yesterday a lot about toxicity and the challenges in a lot of esports titles. But at the same time, if the team fits, that is an amazing experience. You see it fits and they are playing perfectly together and the communication is on point and they are really shining together. And that is something where you learn a lot about people in an esports game, especially the idea that if you're doing that as an assessment center, people are forgetting that you are there. They want to win. They want to win. That's the main purpose. And that's something where they are looking at the idea, what can I contribute to the team and how can I make the team better? And that is something as well where you see, especially like on that picture, how concentrated that person is. And if behind that, there is a stage where 40 people are watching, it's your teammates, it's your colleagues and everything, but you are in the zone, you are seeing it. And we did a lot of assessment center with esports titles, and some of them were like, were you even there? Did you go away or something like that? They are just in the zone. And that is something where we have to change that because with AI, absolutely, we need people that are thinking outside of the box. They are creative, that are just giving added value on that. And that is something where you have to find the high potential. You have to find the hidden high potential that you have to deal with. And take the AI example, OpenAI and the other companies, Google, Meta, they're paying millions to get a person to join the company. And this is something where the crazy idea of 100 million for one person, and that isn't higher from an AI company. And that's the part why we looked into the idea of using esports as a recruiting tool, because it is reaching a young audience and it is a way to see them from a different perspective. And yeah, Outplayed, what is the idea behind it? Using esports as an assessment center to identify how they are working, how they are dealing with each other. And twist, compared to many other company esports concepts, it's all about mixed teams. So you have companies like Airbus, PwC, mixing with potential employees, so candidates. This can be high school students, university students, and they are playing together. So you have in games like League of Legends, like 3 employees and 2 talents. And they are playing together throughout the whole cup. So around 2 months it took with an online phase and then an offline final. And that is something where you are getting to know that company. You are understanding what the culture is because you are playing with the employees that are actually there. And that is something where you are getting an authentic experience. So it's an onboarding before you are actually going into onboarding, because you are having the chance to play with people from the company and they are not HR trained. So they are not sugarcoating it. And we joined a lot of those matches and listening in. And it's, yeah, sometimes they actually really flame about their own company, how bad it is. And we had a couple cases where like, okay, maybe that's not my company. Can I switch my team? And they switched to a different team, to a different company. And in a one case, that switch led to that person got a job offer from that company, from that different company. And that was the interesting part. I actually looked it up yesterday. She's still at that company and she's now climbing the ladders of the company. And that is something where you see, okay, it clicked, they were playing together and they are playing in this high intensive moments. And it's quite fascinating to see. We had a variety of people in the hierarchy of a company, where like there was the director of talent development in one of the teams. And that is still the one case where I probably will not forget it for my entire of my life. There was this 16-year-old kid. He was not, so I really thought he was not able to talk because he was not talking with anybody. So he was really shy, really introverted. And then we joined the Valorant server. Something switched. Like the idea, that is my safe space. That is my turf. And he then, and he was a good player, but also he had, let's say it frank, 3 noobs with him. And they were horrible. And I never saw a 16-year-old kid where like, okay, let's deal with it. I know you have no skill, no anything, no knowledge. Let's do that. And in the nicest and calmest way, he was trying to explain it to them. And the part was were not getting it. So they were not able to understand it. So then he took paint out and made all the paints and made a graphic and everything. And yeah, okay, they slowly understood it, but the idea, it took like 15 minutes, and he was so calm. And I was remembering myself back then as a 16-year-old kid, I probably would have tilted, and I probably would have at some point rage quitted because they were not understanding it. And that was the fascinating part, where you were, from all the information we had, he was this shy guy with not the greatest grades, and really someone you would overlook. And then you see, and that was my HR brain, career path. Give him good training, give him a path to leadership skills and all of those things, where suddenly I saw in 10 years, he is getting the job of the head of talent development. And that was the part where we saw how much potential such a tool can be. Because if you think about any kid being 14, 15, 16, um, they don't know where they want to go. How can we identify that they are potential employees if their path is just starting? And if you then see those snippets where it could go, this foreshadowing what they could do, makes it so interesting, where you can find a high potential even though that kid might not know it. And that is the interesting part, where that kid would be forever grateful for you because you gave him a chance. And he or she will stay with the company, even though he or she gets a better job offer, because they are just high potentials. And that's the part which makes it interesting, because you're suddenly in this authentic environment where I give you a chance, you give me a chance, and we are working on it together. And also the part where cross-generational learning, sure, at least in that cup, the 60-year-old people were underrepresented, uh, but we had a couple 50-year-old people who then played with a 16-year-old. Even for them, were like suddenly, obviously, the 16-year-old kid, or the 15-year-old, or the 17, or the 21-year-old student, they know more about the game. Actually, quite fascinating. There were a challenger in League of Legends in that environment. And weirdly enough, he also had good grades. I don't know what he did with the time. He probably has a time machine or so. But it was interesting, where suddenly you have this 50-year-old man who has to listen to that young kid who just know it better, and having this self-confidence, because, hey, I'm a challenger, you cannot tell me anything, I know it better than you. And suddenly you are having this flipped script, and you see the potential there. And that is something where you see a lot of those interesting parts, especially in games like Valorant, League of Legends, CSGO, Dota 2, Rocket League. It's only 3 versus 3 that is already struggling. FIFA, it's 1 versus 1. That was just because everybody plays FIFA. But it is something where it's quite interesting to observe that we see that much potential, and a couple of the companies just hired the people from the get-go. And even to the point where one of the candidates, he probably would have gotten a job everywhere, but he wanted to go somewhere where something about games and esports is. He is a former student of mine, and I still remember that, where he, when he was in my class, he was not really interested in university. And suddenly I bring some esports examples, and suddenly, like, he was sitting in the last row and like, what now? And that sparked an interest. And now by PwC, consultant for esports, finding his dream job. And all of those things are showcasing that you are finding what they are passionate about. And that's the part about the, probably with every generation, but with this one especially, if you find what they are passionate about, they are burning for it. If they are not passionate about, they are immediately out of the door. And that's something where we have to deal with that. And that's just a slide to show that that is not just something I invent. There is a lot of research on that topic. And also it's ranging back 15 years or something like that. And it showcased that a lot of skills we are searching for in the current workforce. I definitely have to update that slide next year, realizing that. But it is the part where you see a lot of those things we want in a new in the new employees. They can be found in esports, and it's not only the idea of yes, they can use technology, sure, but it is the idea of active learning. Just the idea, every new patch, every new game, every new hero in League of Legends is game changing, and you have to understand how to deal with that. So a lot of skills you're seeing there are skills that we are seeking in the future, and this has been intensified by AI because someone needs to understand what that thing is doing and critically challenging it. And okay, still something where I have to say it's not necessarily the case that the students are good at that at the moment, because it is something where this concept of I optimize my path. It sounds really good where like just let the AI do the assignment because in the end I get a passing grade either way. But it's a part where we also have to deal with that to convince them, learn something for your own purpose. And that's the interesting part where in esports, they are doing that. In video games, they are doing that. Grinding, 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 all the time, playing to become better. If we are able to transfer that in education, that would be a dream. But that's not the part of this talk. The part about this talk is more the idea that you also see a lot about the person in a video game. And that is something where I realized that quite early, around 2004, when I had my World of Warcraft year, or 2005, where I really, okay, my grades in the university tanked at that time, but somehow I survived. But it was the fascinating part where I was playing competitively, top 20 Europe, and I was the raid leader. Back in 25, I was 22, never did anything leadership-wise, and suddenly I had to deal with 60 people. And the most horrible thing is only 40 people in the raid. So every day you had to say to 20 people that you like, that you respect, yeah, you are not good enough. And obviously a lot of backtalk came. So that was something where you are learning quite quickly what is your leadership style? How do you lead? And was fascinating to see. The other guild leader was he was in the military. His leadership style was quite militaristic and quite loud. Mine was the complete opposite. But it showcased that this is something where you are learning how to understand yourself and what you're comfortable at. I would probably not be able to shout at any employee in my whole life. That is not my style. And this is something I learned quite easily there. And that is the interesting part where you learn yourself quite well. And that's where I have my caveat with all the personality frameworks we are nowadays having, that there is always this bias towards a certain type of person, like being the loud extrovert, the charismatic person, and all of those topics. And that is something where we were looking in the idea that you definitely have to have a personality framework that is, it doesn't matter what you are. It is more about the idea of finding a good fit to you, a good team that fits you, someone that is taking care of those things that you don't like. And that's why we introduced the team synergy, where the strength of any team is finding a diverse team that fits you, that makes it better, and that you can rely on other people that making it better. And that is something as well where if we are looking into the youth, they are also binding together. Fortnite is a great example where if you look at the tournaments where you're playing as a duo, you have to blindly trust that person. You have to absolutely know what he or she is doing. And you have to take different roles where the idea of, okay, one of them is the scout, looking out for other people and finding them. And maybe the other one is hiding somewhere. And this is something where it becomes so much interesting to understand how that works. And that was the part where it was so cool to watch or listen into all of those games, because you saw all of those facets. And over the period of time, you also saw that the team became into something where they were a team, where they were saying, hey, I can do that, I can do that. And that's the part where that gameplay became into insights. And the meta frame I will show you in the next slide, but it showcases you how they are playing together and the idea of how they are communicating, decision styles. Super interesting if you go into professional Counter-Strike, where if you have not an idea how decisions are made, your team will fail. And it's quite interesting, even on the highest Counter-Strike level, you immediately see just by watching them talk with each other, you don't even need to see what they are playing. You see immediately, okay, that team doesn't work. That team doesn't work. And then you have the other team that does work, where you have this idea of, in a certain situation, you have a hierarchy who is communicating, what they are communicating. And it's quite fascinating if you talk with Counter-Strike players where they don't necessarily have it formalized how they are communicating. But if you talk with them, we're like, yeah, in the beginning, that guy is talking, and then the other person is talking, and then maybe the third one is talking because then something happened. And that is quite interesting to see. And this is something where it can be then backed with the in-game data, where especially games like Counter-Strike, if you're the in-game leader, from your data point, you are worse than everybody else, because you have to think, you have to talk, you have to observe everything, and then you are not hitting the shot. But that's okay. And if you know that, that is absolutely okay. And this is why we created the following model. And for the gamers, you all see where the logo is coming from. And yeah, the personal mastery is obviously something where you have the additive idea. This is a focus where you are understanding yourself. And the team synergy is, what are you contributing to the team? So probably you can, when I explain the model, you can think about where you would point you. And that's the part where everything is okay. Whatever you are choosing, this is okay. But like, take the example of learning. I do assume, because this is a bit more academic conference, most of you are a little bit more scholar, where you want to read something first, you want to look at a journal article, you want to read it, you want to dig deep. But also there are the people who are like, let's try it. Trial and error. Explore how that works. Both people you need in any team. Where like someone who is actually reading that stuff, and at the same time, you also need that person who is like, yeah, let's try it. And this is something as well where going to the deciding part, someone who is analyzing a lot of the ideas, a lot of the stuff that is happening, the bureaucrat technically, and then you have the intuitionist who is just doing it out of the gut feeling. And that is something which you see so strikingly in any esports title, where sure, you need the analyst, like take League of Legends, pick and ban at the beginning, where the analyst is super happy about everything. We're like, okay, if they pick that, we pick that. We do that, we do that. And then something is done. But the analyst in a game, in the match, is probably the most horrible part. And that's something where I see that a lot with one of the co-authors of that, Gianluca Vitale. He, as the name, he is Italian. So he is probably more intuitionist. And in some matches where like everybody is talking about what we could do, how we could do it, and he's like, shut up, we do that. And then everybody is happy. We're like, yeah, finally someone says what we have to do. And this is probably something you all see in any team you are doing at your job as well. You have this whole dragging, boring meetings, and everybody's talking about stuff, but nobody is deciding, nobody is saying something. And this is something why you need those things. Same with the idea of contributing. Again, academia, we are all specialists. We are good in our field, in our small piece. But that is something as well where how do we communicate that to other people? A good example in a company is take the HR department and the IT department. They cannot talk with each other. They are speaking two different languages. But if you have someone in your organization that speaks HR and IT, never let that person go, because he or she is probably the most important person in that company, because she can speak both languages. And this is something you always need. Same with the idea of creating. Take the example of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Jobs, the absolutely visionary, despite being a narcissist and everything else, but he had this grand vision. But Wozniak executed it. He built that PC, he built that Mac. And you see that with so many startup companies where you often have those duos where someone has this grand vision, but actually most of the time, the one thing that is lacking that actually does the work, creates it, makes it happen. Those people are often a little bit more in the background, but they are as important as the visionary. And this is something where you see, especially with the young generation, that they do understand that it's okay, whatever they are choosing as a path. But what they are looking for is that partner, that person that is complementing them. And this is where team synergy comes in. And that's the part where it becomes so interesting if you are watching those games where it becomes so natural for them to just pick a path. Like the idea of collaborating, Settler and Scout. Now we're getting into the more D&D gaming terminologies. But it's so fascinating in games like Valorant or Counter-Strike, where you have attacker and defender. And it showcased that in so many teams, especially the young ones, understood, I have a different way to look at the world. So the idea of a settler, he or she has the inward view. So looking at all the colleagues, all the friends, everybody who is part of his or her clique. And there they are having this view, what is happening to the other people of my team. That is perfect for the defender side in Valorant or Counter-Strike, because you have to communicate with your people and talking with them and showing, okay, does something happen on the bomb spot B, talking with each other. The scout, on the other hand, he or she is only looking at everybody else who might have or is a danger for your group. So this outward view. And this is something where you see in the attacker side of Counter-Strike or Valorant, that person is only looking, oh, is there a sound from bomb spot B? Should we go there? Should we go there? Not the inward view, what the others are doing, but on the opponent. And this is quite fascinating as well, where you see how they are dealing with. Same with the idea of coping, this inward view on how is everybody in your team? Are they feeling well? This healer role, where like, are you happy? Is there something you're struggling with? And this is something we see quite a lot where the young generation is really, really good at that, where they are seeing what the feelings of the other people are and trying to help them. But at the same time, and that's in the company context, you also have to have this tank who is standing in front of them, where like, think about a leadership role in a company. That leadership role is often also the idea of getting shouted at of the higher ups, and a good leader is shielding the team from all of those challenges, and both things you need in any company. And the same part with leading, enabler and shot caller. That is, for an HR person, absolutely rabbit hole. Maybe some of you heard of the concept of transformative leadership. Transformative leadership is the idea behind it that the whole role of a leader is to make you better, to empower you, you have 100%, let's go 120. Sure, that is quite interesting, quite relevant, but also not really necessary in some of the jobs. And if you're like, let's say, accountant, why should you do 120 workload? That is probably bad project management. If you get a clear message what you have to do and how you have to do it, they are happy about that. So that's the part where you always have this idea of someone saying, okay, we have to do it that way, that is your task, and that is your job. And this is something as well where we have all of those topics where quite quitting happens with the young generation, that are just saying, I don't want to do more. My job is my job, and I want to have a outside life. I don't want to do overtime. And that's okay. I mean, that's probably more than okay, because why should you do that? If you have a workaholic, sure, let them have it. But at the same time, we also have to give those people a space where, like, I have 40 hours work, I have 30 days holiday, I take that, and I drop the key, I drop the laptop. Okay, not the laptop. I shut down the laptop. And at 5, I'm out of the office. And they prefer those shot callers who say, you have to do that in that way. And this is something which becomes more and more relevant. And yeah, communication as well, where this is something as well where you see not everybody is an entertainer. I categorize me definitely not as a bard. I'm not the entertainer here. I don't do any music and everything. I'm more the lore keeper as a scientist. But that is a space where both of them you need in a team. And this is something as well where you see with the young generation, they don't know what they want to do, how they want to do it. And this is something where we saw a lot of those things in in the tournament of the Outplayed Cup, that this was also a self-reflection for them, where they are realizing, hey, that's where I'm comfortable. That's what I want to do. Oh, I am the most knowledgeable person in League of Legends because everybody else has no clue. I suddenly have to lead them. What is the way I want to lead them? And one of the potential talents, she did in the break started her video camera and showed her cat as a moral support. And apparently, okay, that team was, at least at that match I was observing, they were destroyed by the opponent. And suddenly you're seeing a cat content. I mean, that always works. And suddenly they are like, yeah, now our mood is a little bit better. And okay, the second round still was horrible and they were still destroyed, but you didn't see them flame each other. They were quite nice to each other. And this whole spirit she was showing to them were like, it's just a game. Let's do that. Let's play. Let's have some fun. And after that, they went offline and apparently nobody tilted, nobody flamed. And this is the part where she learned a lot about herself, that this was okay. I mean, I was weirded out with that suddenly there was a video or there was a cat in the Discord stream, but it worked. And that was a safe space for her to learn how she want to be, how she want to lead. And this is the part which was then quite a lot of self-reflection. And this is the part as well where you saw quite a lot about how they were dealing with each other. Here, just an example, which was quite fascinating in itself. I don't go into the nerd details, but that red one on the lower side, he is trying to steal the scrap that is in the middle. That was something where he was just doing it. You see the two blue ones. So this is an invade in the terms of League of Legends. And that was not discussed with the team. So he just did it. And the interesting part was, yes, he stole it. And then he got killed. And then his 4 other people got killed. And then they lost the game. That was not good. But the chat or the discussion in Discord was quite fascinating to see. We're like, yeah, sorry, I screwed up. I saw an opportunity. I thought I can make it and turn the game and let us win. And all the other 4 people were like, no, it's all right. There was a chance. We could have won it and you tried it. Don't stop it. And this is the interesting part where he was one of the talents and just did that. And suddenly all of the other players were like, we are comfortable with each other and are helping each other. And yeah, just the assessment flow. We had those mixed teams formed and we did the pre-screening, trying to match them as much as possible. Obviously, that was something where the companies had some input in there, what we want to have. And that was something where obviously all of those companies were like, we need STEM people. That's the only thing we need. And that was quite sad on our side because we would have loved like, okay, let's search for HR people and then we might have more diversity because obviously not only esports has a male dominance, STEM has a male dominance, and then you're like, let's find any non-male person that might be interested. But at least we had like 10 talents that were female, and one definitely was transgender. He or she was in the transition at that phase, I think, if I remember correctly. But yeah, that was something where we struggled in finding a diverse field because STEMs are still not diverse. But yeah, then we had those tournaments being online and then offline and collected those data by watching it. We are now moving more and more into using automated systems, but also the idea of debriefing and reflecting and giving the company a feedback where they got the recruiting match report, how good they are, what skills they have, and if they are fitting to the company. But the interesting part as well was for the players, for the talents, it became also obvious, is that a company I want to even join? And this is something as well where if, if they actually got a job offer and accepted to it, all of them, I did check up, they are still with the company. And we did that in 2023. I think that's quite a success that they are 2 years in a company, especially nowadays where everybody is constantly changing the space. And that's the interesting part where we have that. And yeah, definitely something where a lot of the young ones got some awareness of who am I? What is my style? What is the way I want to be? And especially with the idea of they chose the games themselves. So they said, okay, I want to do League of Legends. I want to do that. They had from the get-go something where they are confident. It's their game. They have fun with it. And I mean, especially in League of Legends, they have hundreds and thousands of hours in there. And they are just good at that. And as I said, Challenger and in Rocket League, apparently half of them were Grandmaster. And no idea about Rocket League if that's easy, but Grandmaster sounds really hard. And that is something where we got a lot of that. And yeah, deeper insights into the team fit, where it became absolutely clear, does this person fit to us? Does this person fit to our people? And that is something as well where we see with a lot of companies, they don't necessarily know what's their company culture, what they are standing for, what they want. And then you have those marketing blah blah of getting a young generation, and then yes, they get a hire out of that, but that person leaves the company like within months, or with that generation, even to the point where like they go in and go immediately out because it is not what is proposed. And there's a great, not a great example, but a great example from a Dutch company that had this beautiful, wonderful, gamified recruiting process, really fancy, everything, and probably all of us would have wanted that job. And then you go into the company and it's old school. It's brick and mortar, it is bureaucratic, it is 1960s. So we all probably would go in and go out again. And that is something which is quite important here as well. And yeah, it's a playful model where we see also this career orientation, because with that, we are also seeing what they could do and where they could go. We have a different project in Norway. It's called Game On. And the idea behind that is we are focusing on outsiders. So people who dropped out of the system, especially between 18 and 21, who didn't go to university, didn't go to a job, and need no education, no employment, and no training. And this is a problem we are seeing more and more throughout Europe, that we are having like up to 10% of a generational age that is not, that is even lost. I saw at some point, I think the Bild, I know it's not always the greatest source, but they were saying we lost 500,000 kids. As always, Bild with the big claim. But yeah, technically it's not that wrong, because they are not in the education, they are not in training, they are not in employment, they are just lost. And if you look at Japan, kids that are not leaving their apartment anymore. This is the problem. And with the Game On project, we are bringing them back into university, where they have a 1-year program of education and training. But we are getting them through video games and esports. So they play, they have some fun, and they also had something like that where they were playing with each other, and a couple of them were like, I was not talking for a year with any person at all. And that special person, she is now doing an exchange here in Japan. From not talking at all, getting them hooked again through video games into a proper bachelor and an exchange here in Japan. Is a big movement in that. And that's where it becomes so interesting to utilize that, because they are comfortable in the video games. And yeah, it is definitely something where it's a gamified assessment, and absolutely all feedback we got, they are forgetting that there is a person, and they are just doing that job. And yeah, it's an opportunity to study team cognition, how they're dealing with it, and especially the idea of we look for augmentation over automation. We see talents that give an added value in times of AI. And it is definitely something where, at least in this case, all of the companies had some authenticity with their esports group. So most of them have an ongoing esports group. Most of them are constantly playing in esports tournaments and all. One of the teams have a Prime League Division 2 team. For those in League of Legends, know that is quite high. And they still have a 40-hour normal job. And Volkswagen, for example, also has an ongoing esports group. And I saw some of the matches where, like, okay, their name is Biertheken Club, but they are good, and that's the fun part, and that's something where that young generation sees, okay, those are my people, that might be interesting. And it leads to a way where you are also learning from them. And that's something we got from the companies as well. That is talent development for the older ones, because they are also learning how to deal with a young generation there. And definitely something where you are playing together, you're learning together, and that leads to the idea you're working together. And yeah, that, to sum it up, especially as he is coming in front, it is about finding the hidden talents, those people who are overseen. That doesn't mean that they are not good. And I hear so many stories of people where, like, I got a person that I normally would not be able to hire because he or she was overseen. There is one company, he is the owner, he is a former esports player. He played Counter-Strike in the highest league and everything. He has this monthly thing where, like, the player or the employees have to decide on a game and they have to beat him. And if they beat him, they get beer, free beer. At least when I talked with him, they still have not beaten him, but it motivates them, it brings them together, and it is construction. So it is an industry where you're normally like, how do I even get those people? And construction in East Germany, how do I get people to East Germany? And this is something where he gets people he normally would not even have a chance to compete, because everybody else would say, yeah, come to Vienna. It looks nicer. And that's the part where you are finding them. And that is something where, if you are giving them the chance, it makes them also more loyal to you. And that makes it so interesting to see that also at the same time, you are getting a chance to understand what their career path could be. You're suddenly also in the situation where you are able to create a fitting career path for them based on what they learned. So, I mean, we all know that probably most of us learned English through video games. That is common knowledge. But we learn all of the other things as well. If we are then using that and build up on that, a lot of talent development is not needed, because why should I learn project management if I run an World of Warcraft guild? That is project management, time management at its best. And that is something where, if we adopt that, we are reaching the young generation where they are, and also the part where we are showing them that they are seen. And that's all from me. I think I'm still quite good in the time. So thank you.